Deputy Connolly.
Garmina Magov agus Fáilte over Ash, na Dini bhí an seo hana, agus donna Dini nua, go Nairi live. Limited time, and I've read, and it doesn't make for good reading, does it? And I'm addressing the CEO and I'm addressing the chairperson. It doesn't read for good reading. Okay. Well, I don't think you have any choice but to accept it. So when I see that sentence and when I hear about reassurance, it doesn't help me in any way, because what jumps out really out of all the reports, and I think the Secretary General on page 4 of this thing, he confirms, you see, that Dr. Thorne found that governance procedures were adequate. Governance procedures, in relation to them, adequate arrangements were in place. Now that's deeply troubling. They were in place. So a lot of your opening statement and a lot of the department is in relation to all the new changes, which are very welcome. But they were in place, and this happened. And so I've never seen this in my life, actually, in my just under 2.5 years on the committee. Key audit concerns, page 9 of the controller. I'm not going to read them out. I counted 11. Incomplete documentation, documentation held off-site. Inadequate information when the audit team is asking questions, and when they go back again, still inadequate information, and so on. So just before I start asking a few questions, the Controller and Auditor General said this is one of 2 special reports. 4 special reports in a
very small number
in 20
of
years.
supplementary
and 2
reports.
of them applied to Wicklow, Kildare.
Well, Kildare in one instance, Kildare VEC in one instance,
Kildare.
and Kildare Wicklow, obviously, after the amalgamation.
Okay. And so, Chair, you're the new chair, is that right, of the board?
Yes, I was on the
I know.
board.
When did you become the new chair?
Sorry?
When did you become the new chair?
The former chair and vice chair resigned.
When?
In December of 2017.
So you've been the new chair since
For
then?
a year, yes.
Okay. And just where do you hold your meetings, and are they public?
The meetings are held in public. We rotate between ours, Kildare, the council chamber in Naas,
yes,
and in Wicklow.
Very good. And so they're always held there. They're not held in hotels at short notice or anything.
They have been held in hotels.
Why have they been held in hotels?
When chambers weren't available for special meetings, largely, not on the routine meetings.
Tell me how many times meetings have been held in hotels at short notice, because I'm interested in governance and accountability, and that's what we're here about. So this is a very practical application of it. If you don't have it, just come back to me before the end. How many times have you gone to hotels? Why? What notice is given to members? Are the minutes now going up online? Yep. How many sets of minutes have gone up online?
I believe all minutes.
These are just very quick, practical questions, really. You know, we're here as a result of a special report, following on a special report, following on Dr. Thorne and a current guard investigation with our questions limited. Now, I'm just asking practical questions in relation to governance.
Yes. Deputy,
just here 1 second. I want to preface something. I'm actually a great admirer of what I still call the VECs. I still call them the VECs. I served 10 years on a committee. I think they do wonderful work. I think the whole principle and ethos behind them is just wonderful. Okay, so let me get that out of the way. I actually placed them right up there with the universities. I think they do tremendous work, and I know lots of people, including my own family, who have benefited from it. Today is about governance. Today is about how something so shocking could happen and how it's going to be prevented in the future. So now, Chair, how many times have minutes been held and meetings been held in hotels?
I couldn't give you an exact number.
Well, you should be able to give me exactly how many times that you stepped outside of the regular...
Well, Deputy, I should explain that we would have 6 meetings typically per year, but in the last year and since December of 2017 we've had 12 meetings. So we've had a lot of special meetings dealing with the various reports and directions from the Minister, etc. And on occasion, where it was not possible that the chambers were not available in Kildare or Wicklow, and my apologies, the council chambers that we typically meet. We do. In Oris, Kildare and Kildare and the Wicklow County Council offices. And
what's Oris, Kildare?
Ours, Kildare, is the County Council offices in Kildare.
So either of the council offices?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's the meeting place under standing orders.
So the VEC has no premises that can facilitate?
No, we don't. No, there's, and very often I would prefer a particular room. I don't know if council chambers is the very best place when you have a place for 40 or 50 people with a meeting for 12 people and microphones, etc.
Okay.
But
so
that's understanding orders. Ours, Kildare, is the main meeting place.
Okay.
But we agreed that we would rotate the meetings between Wicklow.
I understand all that. My question was
but because of the necessity to have special meetings, we met in whatever was available.
Okay, Chair, will you just come back through the Chair to get exactly how many times they met
I can
in
supply
hotels?
that. I just don't have it.
That's okay. That's okay. What notice was given to the members on the board? What notice in advance was given to them that the meeting would change now into a hotel, a private hotel, in relation to the audit committee? Okay.
Yes, but we've never switched on purpose or anything like that.
No, I've only asked a question. I didn't get a satisfactory reply, so through the Chair I'm going to wait for that, and that's okay. And I'm moving on to the next thing, the resignation of the chairperson of the audit committee. That was back in September 18, was it?
2017, yes.
18.
Of the audit committee, my apologies, September 18.
Was that chair of that audit committee a member of the board?
No.
No.
The chair of the audit committee must be an external member.
Okay. So was there reasons that we...
Well, his term of office had come to an end, and he decided that he didn't wish to be
and is there a new chair in place?
We have an interim chair in place, and we have advertised for a new chair.
When did the interim chair go in?
It was a member of the existing audit committee became the interim chair.
And how was that decided?
At the board.
The board decided that?
Yes.
Okay. And how long is that interim chair in place?
Since our December meeting, I think.
December
2018.
Of 18?
Yeah. So at the next meeting, I think, after the event.
Okay. And the audit committee has met regularly, has it?
It has met. There were gaps, but it has met, I gather from the report, 4 times per year.
Why were there gaps?
It was met. I have the dates there.
Good, thanks.
In 2018, the Audit Committee met on the 15th of March, the 16th of May, the 27th of November and the 5th of December. My understanding is that they're due for a meeting in the next week or so, my understanding, yeah.
So, and the Audit Committee report back to the Finance Committee, is that right? No.
Typically, the Finance Committee reports to the Audit Committee,
so,
and it's back and forth
and then back to the board.
When it comes to the annual accounts, the Audit Committee reports to the Finance Committee. The Finance Committee then signs off on its part, and then it goes to the full board for the annual accounts.
In the last year, have issues come up? Separate from what we're discussing today, have you identified other risks and other issues?
From the committees or from the main board? From
the Finance Committee and the Audit Committee. Have risks been identified?
The Finance Committee, no risk has been identified. As I said earlier, though, we are looking at the leases, etc., and being very careful around those. But our job is to double check. In law, our job is to look at the service plan for the year, to adopt, which is the budget for the year. So we work on the budget through the finance people, and then we present that to the main board. And our job then is to monitor the service plan, which we do at every meeting.
Mr Murdoch, please just listen to me a second.
Yes.
We had the former chair and vice chair before us. We have all these investigations. What I'm trying to establish is, and I've looked at all of this, I looked at all the lovely language, but it doesn't take away from the fact that that language was in place at the time and still all of this happened. So one of the things that jumps out is the board was passive. The board was passive. Now, I'm not sure if I agree with that, but that's what Dr. Thorne said. The board was passive. How do you feel about that as chair of the board now? You were a member at the time. Can you help us with that conclusion and finding from Dr. Thorne?
One comment I'd make is that board training is absolutely essential at the commencement of a board cycle. And an understanding of roles and responsibilities of board members. I think that's really essential.
Absolutely. Were you a passive member on the board?
Well, I joined Finance Committee the first day.
Were you? I'm trying to just establish. I was on a board. I think it's extremely difficult for ordinary members to query things. But so the word the passive. Now it's kind of mitigated by saying, well, the board weren't getting enough information. But would you accept that the board were passive?
Well, I have to accept the findings that Dr. Thorne found on it. I thought we were doing our very best in the circumstances. We had no inkling of this situation, and I accept completely that that's the difficulty.
Okay, so as Chair, have you gone back to the ordinary board members in a meeting and said, look what's happened here under our watch? What stopped, what prevented this coming out at board level? Have you gone back and carried out an exercise like that?
Well, we have a board evaluation currently underway, and all that has been taken on board. We have brought in the Institute of Public Administration on a board evaluation, and the complete report, we have had surveys, we've had a workshop, we've had face-to-face interviews, and a complete report will be made available in the next month.
That's good, and I welcome.
And I think that will show up a lot of discrepancies.
But I think what really would show up something is if you went back to the board and asked them, in the last number of years, what stopped them? Some people spoke out, I gather.
Yeah. That's what the IPA exactly did, yes.
Some people spoke out. Some people tried to raise issues, but there was such a culture created that they just couldn't persist with their queries, or if they did it at great cost. Would you accept that? Would you accept that some people tried to raise issues on that board? Am I wrong?
People raise issues all the time about various issues as well.
Okay, and was there a culture to reward the person and to say, that's a good question, let's deal with that in an open way? Did you hold your CEO to account? Well,
I believe the CEO was held to account in the best way forward. We were depending then on the information you get back.
Clearly not. Clearly they were not held to account as reading all of these reports. Yeah. Does the CEO stay during the whole meeting? Is the CEO in attendance for the whole meeting?
Yes.
Is that a good practice?
Perhaps. In the Finance Committee, we don't do that. Yeah. Our people from the office, the Finance people, are excellent in supporting the Finance Committee, but we never have a meeting without. We always have a meeting on our own as well. So and I appreciate that point. The board should do that.
Well, I'm asking that, but you haven't done that.
No.
The CEO is a very important job, and I'm really wishing you the best of luck in your new job. When did you take up the position?
June 2018.
June 2018, so not a year done yet.
No.
Yeah.
Ideally, I think the system should work that you have the internal controls, you have audit reports, you have finance reports coming to the board, and they are tested. There's a balance on these things. The IIU should be reporting. You understand that as an ordinary member, sometimes it's trying to identify what are the questions.
Absolutely.
Is the problem.
I agree with you, and therein lies the problem. Yeah. I agree with you totally. It's very difficult for ordinary members on a board. They're doing it voluntary and they're there. There's no backup, there's no training. I agree with all of that, and that's hugely important, and that's a failure on the part of the system, the Department of Education, not to ensure that, and so on. I appreciate that the amalgamation went through too quickly without any backup. I know on the ground the shared services, which I probably won't have time to get to, is certainly not up to scratch yet, and in Galway it has been brought to our attention in Athenry that it's extremely difficult and the staff are working under enormous pressure. But I want to get back just to the board, because I can't get away from the fact that everything was in place to stop this happening, and it didn't stop it. And therein is, for me, the kernel of it. Now let me go to legal advice. The board got legal advice. Was it clear to you as an ordinary member? And is it clear to you now how legal advice works? Who gets that? I understand it was the chairperson got the legal advice. Was that brought to the board's attention? Did you sanction that? What would happen now if you needed legal advice?
Well, what would happen now is that what happened there was the board of members, if you like, was seeking independent legal advice as distinct from the chief executive in the normal course of events.
This is my question, just to be helpful to you. Yes. Did the previous chair seek legal advice without you being aware of it?
That's true. In 2017, when the CNAG contacted the then chair and the vice chair and the chair of the audit committee, they were, to my best knowledge, advised to take legal advice.
Oh, Mr. Merrick, listen to me.
But that is the truth.
Oh, no, listen to me. You weren't aware that they sought legal advice. You were a member of the board.
They sought legal advice.
No, you weren't aware of it, were you, as a member of the board?
by right, the chair, if I was asked now to get legal advice, I would have to go to the board and get agreement of the board to do so.
And who would pay for that legal advice?
Well, I presume the code covers it, that it'll be covered by the ETB, provided it's done properly, etc.
Okay. My question again, go back. Yeah. As a board, you weren't aware that the chairperson sought legal advice. That wasn't discussed or approved.
Yes, but I think you should...
just answer my question.
Yeah, that is true, but you understand the circumstances that...
I don't actually.
Oh, well, let me explain what happened.
You might take the chairperson's time later to explain.
The CNAG and the Department of Education contacted the chair and the vice chair, and to my best knowledge advised them immediately to get legal advice on the matter and report to the board.
Did they report to the board?
Then they came back to the board. Now, there was a delay on that. They came to the board, but we were informed that they had received legal advice then. But ideally, and under the code, you have to get the sanction of the board before you seek legal advice.
Ideally, last question is the internal audit. Did I see somewhere it's not fit for purpose? Just clarify for me in relation to the internal audit and the role of the department now. Is there an internal audit centrally, or what's the role of... And I'm finished. Thanks.
No, that's a national issue now.
The department.
There's a shared service, internal audit service, which is run on behalf of the ETB sector on an agency basis by one of the ETBs in Cavan.
And there's staffing, recruitment and retention issues.
Exactly, Chair, and we covered that in the background document.
Okay. Right, and call Deputy Connolly at this stage.